Hey y'all, what is up? Scott here. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new cable that was released for the Moza Air that lets it work with the Panasonic GH5 for motion time-lapse. So when the Moza Air first came out, the cable that came with the gimbal wouldn't correctly trigger the shutter for the Panasonic GH5. However, the folks over at Gudsen were kind enough to send me a new cable that they've just manufactured, and they tell me that it's going to work with this feature. So we'll take the gimbal and the GH5 over to the park and see what kind of shots we can get using the motion time-lapse on the Moza Air. So here we are in the park. I was gonna try to wait a little bit and get some nicer colors, but I'm afraid we might actually just lose the sun completely. So we're just gonna go ahead. Maybe it won't be the most beautiful time lapse ever, but we'll learn something. I've got the camera set up here. Gimbal's on the tripod to have it nice and stationary. I have the cable already hooked up to the GH5, connected to the gimbal. I've got it set up where I want to start the time lapse. It's pointed right there. So now I'm going to look at the app here and we'll go into the advanced time lapse mode, which is the little movie camera. To start things off, we'll hit the add button, and that's going to give our start point into the software. So we'll hit add, we'll see a little point appear. I like to just manually move the camera. I have it set so you can direct it with your hands. Position it where I want the final spot to be. Hit the add button again, and we'll get a little curve here showing where the camera is going to move. You can set multiple points in this. This is just going to be a straight panning shot. Next, we'll go into setup. I like to change my curve fit so that it's smooth. Just gives it a more gradual start and stop. So my camera is set to 1/25th of a second right now. It's still a bit bright out, but I need to tell the software what shutter speed my camera is using so it knows how long it needs to stay stationary for. And so I'm going to set mine to a shutter duration of 1 second. It doesn't let you actually get any more fine grain than that. And so it'll take a shot, it'll know that shot will be under 1 second. It will move the camera, it'll hold it, and then it will move it again. To make sure that it's doing that correctly, our shutter interval is how frequently our shutter is gonna fire. And so for us, we want it to fire, we're gonna do every 3 seconds for this particular shot. Target clip length is how long we actually want to have it record for. This is not the length of your final clip. This is the length of the shot that you're doing. It's really touchy to set this. The dial is very sensitive, and so that's one thing that would be really nice if Gudsen could change, making it much easier to type in how long you want to do this for. Ideally, you could just type it in. That would be the simplest way. So we'll just go 14. I can't get it more detailed than this. 14 minutes will be close enough. So I'm going to hit the start button. You'll see the gimbal's moving into position. And there we go. Now we're getting some shots fired. So on the phone, you'll see on the path screen, there's a vertical blue line, and this just indicates where you're at in your whole time lapse. I found that this isn't always accurate. Sometimes the time lapse actually ends before the blue has gotten to the end of the line, but sometimes it seems to work as well. So from here, we're just gonna sit and wait, enjoy the beautiful near sunset. Maybe we'll get a few colors in the end of this time lapse, we'll find out. But otherwise, I'll check in with you guys here as soon as this is done. You guys, a beaver just went by. So cool. The cutest dog just stopped by. He was only 4 months old. So cute. I really want a dog. Okay, so the time lapse is finished. Colors didn't turn out that great. You never know what you're gonna get with a time lapse. I'm seeing some other things that I might actually want to shoot another one, so we'll see what actually I end up with at home. But from here, we'll go back home, we'll download these on the computer. We'll pull this all into LR Timelapse, which will integrate with Lightroom to correct for any flickering or anything like that, and then we'll export the final file. So see you guys back in the studio. So we're back in the studio, and I've downloaded all the shots and ran them through LR Timelapse. This won't be a tutorial of how to use LR Timelapse. There's lots of great videos about how to use the software. Super great program for taking a sequence of images that might have slightly different exposures and being able to remove all the flicker and build your time lapse from there. So highly recommend it, give it a try. But if we take a look at this footage on the computer now, I did a few different shots, and what I realized when I got home is that I was shooting on the equivalent of about a 200mm lens. I was trying to get the mountains to be a bit closer in the image. And what it seems is that the gimbal is actually not quite sensitive enough to handle this sort of telephoto lens and have a stable shot result from that. I was able to apply warp stabilizer in Premiere Pro, and it did clean this up pretty well. But here you can see the footage straight out of LR Timelapse as the gimbal provided. And now here's the footage with warp stabilizer applied. So as you can see, it's pretty usable. It does a good job of cleaning it up, and I'm happy with the results. Here's one more sequence of a different shot. I did a little bit more movement in this shot. Here it is, straight from the camera. And now here it is with warp stabilizer applied in Premiere Pro. Pretty usable, looks good. Maybe not the best shot, but you get the idea. When I got home, I realized that this might not actually be the fault of the gimbal, but rather the lens choice that I used. And I threw on a wider lens. I had roughly probably a 60mm equivalent lens. And I just did a quick shot out of my porch. And while this isn't the most interesting time lapse, you can see without warp stabilizer applied, it's fairly stable. And then you throw a warp stabilizer on top of it, and you actually end up with a really good image. And so something to keep in mind, just make sure you're not shooting with a real telephoto lens, or the gimbal just doesn't have enough stability to be able to do this. So one other thing I wanted to point out that I was a little bit disappointed with is that my primary camera is the GH5, and while this little cable that they provided works great for this, my B camera is a G85, and I like to use this for things like time-lapse, and so I'd really love to put the G85 on the gimbal and use it for these motion time-lapse. However, this cable is too short. The remote plug for that particular camera is on the other side of the body, and so this cable won't reach, and that's just really too bad. I really would have liked that to be possible, and so hopefully the cable that is officially released will be longer, or maybe there's some sort of an extension cable that you can get to make this work for both these cameras. Seems like it'd be a fairly easy fix for that to be done. All right, y'all, that's all for today. If you found anything in this video helpful, drop me a like below. If you've got anything to say, comment. And if you're not yet followed along, hit that subscribe button. Follow me along on this adventure as I become a filmmaker. And until the next video, keep getting out there making beautiful stuff, and I'll see you soon. Peace.